The rain hammered Austin Airport's windows as Elon Musk hurried toward his delayed flight, frustrated by another failed SpaceX meeting. He needed coffee, not complications. But when a silver-haired stranger approached him at Gate 23 with trembling hands and desperate eyes, everything changed. "Mr. Musk, I have something that belongs to you," Helen Shen whispered, pressing an ancient wooden box into his palm. "My father worked on Apollo 11. Before he died, he made me promise to give this to you. He said you would understand when the time was right." Before Elon could ask questions, she vanished into the crowd of holiday travelers. The box felt impossibly warm in his hands, its carved patterns seeming to pulse with hidden energy. Inside lay secrets that would shatter everything humanity believed about its place in the universe and prove that we were never alone among the stars. The rain hammered against the tall windows of Austin Bergstrom International Airport like angry fists. Elon Musk pulled his black jacket tighter as he hurried through Terminal 2, his phone buzzing with messages he didn't want to read. The SpaceX meeting had run 3 hours over schedule. 3 hours of arguing about fuel costs and launch delays while outside. December weather made flying dangerous. "Sir, your jet is ready when you are," his assistant Maria had texted 20 minutes ago. But first, he needed coffee. Real coffee, not the bitter stuff from the SpaceX break room. Holiday travelers filled every seat in the gate area. Families with crying babies. Business people typing frantically on laptops. Teenagers with headphones, lost in their phones. Everyone looked tired and stressed. Elon felt the same way that he found a small cafe near Gate 23 and ordered a large black coffee. The barista, a young man with purple hair, recognized him. "Hey, you're that rocket guy," the barista said with a smile. "My little brother wants to be an astronaut because of you." Elon forced a smile back. "Tell him to study hard. We'll need good astronauts for Mars." "Mars, wow. That's so cool." The barista handed him the coffee. "No charge, Mr. Musk. Thanks for making the future awesome." Elon walked toward his gate, sipping the hot coffee. It helped wash away some of his frustration. The day had been full of problems, engine tests that failed, parts that cost too much, engineers who couldn't agree on anything. Sometimes he wondered, if getting humans to Mars was impossible, Gate 23 was crowded with delayed passengers. A family with 3 small children sat on the floor, playing cards. An elderly man slept in a wheelchair, a blanket over his legs. 2 businesswomen shared a phone charger and complained about missing their meetings. Elon found an empty seat near the window and pulled out his phone. 47 new messages. Most were about Tesla stock prices or Neuralink test results. One was from his brother Kimball, asking about Christmas dinner plans. Another was from his mother, reminding him to eat something healthy. He started typing a reply when a soft voice interrupted him. "Excuse me, Mr. Musk?" Elon looked up. A woman stood in front of him, maybe 60 years old, with kind brown eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. She wore a simple blue winter coat and carried a small purse. Her silver hair was pulled back in a neat bun. She looked nervous but determined. "Yes," Elon said, putting his phone away. People approached him in airports sometimes. Usually they wanted selfies or investment advice. "I'm sorry to bother you," the woman said. Her voice had a slight tremor, like she was scared. "But I have something that belongs to you." Elon frowned. "I think you might have me confused with someone else." The woman shook her head. She reached into her purse and pulled out a small wooden box. It was old and worn, about the size of a jewelry box. The wood was dark brown, almost black, with strange patterns carved into the top. The carvings looked like stars or maybe mathematical symbols. Elon couldn't tell which. "My name is Helen Shun," the woman said, holding the box carefully in both hands. "My father worked for NASA a long time ago. He was part of the Apollo 11 mission." Elon's attention sharpened. Apollo 11, the first moon landing. Every space engineer knew that story by heart. Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin walking on the lunar surface while Michael Collins orbited above. July 20th, 1969, the day humans first touched another world. "Your father worked on Apollo 11?" Elon asked. Helen nodded. "He was Dr. James Chun, a systems engineer. He worked on the life support systems for the lunar module." Her eyes grew sad. "He died last month. Cancer." "I'm sorry for your loss," Elon said. He meant it. Anyone who helped put humans on the moon deserved respect. Before he died, he made me promise something, Helen continued. She held the wooden box out toward Elon. He said I should give this to you. He said you would understand when the time was right. Elon stared at the box. It looked ancient, like something from a museum. The carved patterns seemed to shift in the airport's fluorescent lights. I don't understand. Why would your father want me to have this? I don't know, Helen admitted. He was very sick at the end. Sometimes he said strange things. But he was very clear about this box. He made me write down your name. He said it was important. Thunder rumbled outside the windows. The storm was getting worse. Elon looked at the box again. Something about it felt significant, though he couldn't explain why. The wood was smooth and warm, as if someone had held it for many years. What's inside it? Elon asked, Helen's eyes filled with tears. I don't know. Dad never let me open it. He said it wasn't for me. It was for the person who would take humanity to the stars. A chill ran down Elon's spine. Take humanity to the stars. That was exactly what he was trying to do with SpaceX. Mars was just the beginning. Eventually, humans would spread across the galaxy. But how could Helen's father have known that? Mrs. Chun, Elon started to say. Please, Helen interrupted. Just take it. Dad carried this box for over 50 years. He said it was waiting for the right person at the right time. I think that person is you. She pressed the box into Elon's hands. It was heavier than it looked and warm to the touch. The carved patterns felt smooth under his fingers. For a moment, Elon thought he felt the box vibrate slightly, like a phone getting a message. But that was impossible. I should explain more, Elon said. I should ask questions. But when he looked up, Helen Chun was walking away, moving quickly through the crowd of travelers. Elon stood up, still holding the box. Wait, Mrs. Chun. She didn't turn around. Within seconds, she had disappeared into the sea of holiday passengers. Elon looked around desperately, but she was gone. Flight 447 to San Francisco is now boarding, announced a voice over the intercom. All passengers, please have your boarding passes ready. Elon's phone buzzed. A text from his pilot. Weather window opening up. We should leave in 10 minutes if you want to get home tonight. Elon stared down at the wooden box in his hands. The airport noise faded around him. Crying children, rolling suitcases, flight announcements. All he could think about was Helen Chen's words. He said you would understand when the time was right. What did that mean? And why did the box feel so important? Mr. Musk, a security guard approached him. Your pilot is asking for you at the private terminal. Elon nodded and slipped the box into his jacket pocket. It fit perfectly, as if it belonged there. As he walked toward his jet, questions filled his mind. Who was Dr. James Chen really? What was inside the box? And why did Helen's father think Elon was the right person to have it? The rain continued to fall as Elon boarded his private jet. He buckled his seatbelt and felt the box's weight in his pocket. Whatever was inside, he had a feeling his life was about to change forever. The jet lifted off into the stormy night, carrying Elon and his mysterious gift toward an uncertain future. The jet's engines hummed softly as it cut through the dark clouds. Above Texas, Elon sat in his leather seat, staring out at the lightning that flickered like camera flashes in the storm. His laptop was open, but he hadn't typed a word in 20 minutes. The wooden box sat on the small table next to his coffee cup, seeming to demand his attention that he picked it up again, turning it over in his hands. The carved patterns caught the cabin lights, creating shadows that looked almost like a star map. The wood felt warm, warmer than it should be after sitting in the cool airplane cabin. Elon had built rockets and electric cars. He understood engineering and physics. But this simple wooden box confused him completely. His phone rang. Claire Morrison's name appeared on the screen. Hey, Elon said, still holding the box. How was the meeting? Claire's voice was warm and familiar. She was probably in her lab at the University of Texas, working late on her renewable energy research. She always worked late. Long, frustrating. The usual. Elon set the box down carefully. I'm flying back now. Good. I made dinner, but I can reheat it when you get home. Claire paused. You sound distracted. Everything okay? Elon looked at the box again. How could he explain something he didn't understand himself? Just tired. It's been a long day. Well, get some sleep when you land. You've been pushing yourself too hard lately. I will, Elon promised, though he doubted he would sleep much tonight. See you soon. After hanging up, Elon opened his laptop and searched for Dr. James Chun NASA Apollo 11. Several results appeared. Dr. Chun had indeed worked for NASA from 1965 to 1971. He was part of the team that designed the life support systems for the lunar module. After Apollo 11, he had worked on later missions before leaving NASA to join a private aerospace company. Elon found an old interview from 1994, 25 years after the moon landing. Dr. Chin talked about the challenges of keeping astronauts alive in space. He seemed like a careful, thoughtful engineer. Nothing unusual or mysterious about him. But then Elon noticed something odd. In every photo, Dr. Chun wore the same small pendant around his neck. It was hard to see clearly, but it looked like the same star pattern carved into the wooden box. The jet touched down at Austin Executive Airport just after midnight. Elon's driver was waiting with the Tesla Model S. During the quiet drive home, Elon kept glancing at the box on the seat beside him. It seemed to glow slightly in the car's dim lights, but that had to be his imagination. His house in Austin was dark except for one window. Claire was still awake, probably reading research papers in bed. Elon parked in the garage and sat for a moment, holding the box. Part of him wanted to open it right now. Part of him was afraid to. Claire was indeed reading when he entered the bedroom. She looked up with a smile that faded when she saw his face. "You look terrible," she said, setting down her tablet. "What happened?" Elon sat on the edge of the bed and pulled the box from his jacket pocket. "Someone gave me this at the airport. A woman named Helen Chun. She said her father worked on Apollo 11. Claire examined the box without touching it. "It's beautiful. Very old. What's inside?" "I don't know. I haven't opened it yet." "Why not?" Elon couldn't answer that question. Something told him to wait, but he didn't know why. "She said her father wanted me to have it, that I would understand when the time was right." Claire frowned. "That's strange. Did you know her father?" "No. I looked him up on the flight. He was a real NASA engineer, but I never met him." Elon turned the box over in his hands. "Claire, this is going to sound crazy, but I think this box is important. Really important." "Important how?" "I don't know. I just feel it." Claire studied his face. She was a scientist, used to dealing with facts and data. But she also knew Elon well enough to recognize when something was bothering him deeply. Then, "Don't rush," she said finally. "If it's important, it'll still be important tomorrow." Elon placed the box on his nightstand and tried to sleep. But every time he closed his eyes, he saw Helen Chen's face. Her words echoed in his mind. He said you would understand when the time was right. The next morning, Elon took the box to his home office. He set it on his desk next to his computer and tried to work on SpaceX designs. But his eyes kept drifting to the carved patterns. They seemed familiar somehow, like something he had seen before but couldn't remember where. Claire found him there at noon, still staring at the box. "You haven't moved in hours," she said, bringing him a sandwich. "This isn't healthy. I keep thinking I should recognize these patterns," Elon said. "They look like star charts, but not quite right." Claire sat down and looked at the box more carefully. "They're definitely astronomical. See this one? It looks like Orion. And this could be the Big Dipper. But the positions are wrong," Elon said. "The stars aren't where they should be." "Maybe. It's an old star chart. The positions change over time." Elon shook his head. "Not that much. Not in human history." His phone buzzed with a text from his brother Kimball. "Dinner tonight? You've been quiet lately." Elon realized he had been avoiding people since getting the box. Even his weekly calls with his mother had been shorter than usual. His children had noticed too. When his daughter Vivian visited last weekend, she had asked if he was sick. "I'm becoming obsessed with this thing," Elon told Claire. "That's not like me." "Maybe that's the point," Claire said softly. "Maybe you're supposed to be obsessed with it." That evening, Elon met Kimball at their favorite restaurant in downtown Austin. His brother ordered barbecue and beer. Elon barely touched his food. "You look like you haven't slept in days," Kimball said. "What's going on?" Elon almost told him about the box. The words were right there, ready to spill out. But something held him back. "Just work stuff. The Mars timeline is aggressive." Kimball studied his brother's face. "This isn't about work. I've seen you stressed about work before. This is different." "I'm fine," Elon insisted. "No, you're not. Mom called me yesterday. She's worried about you too." Elon sighed. His family knew him too well. "There's something I need to figure out. Something important. But I can't talk about it yet." "Why not?" "Because I don't understand it myself." Kimball leaned forward. Elon, whatever this is, you don't have to handle it alone. You know that, right? Elon nodded, but he wasn't sure that was true. The box felt like a personal responsibility, something that was meant for him alone. That night, he dreamed about the Apollo 11 mission. He saw Neil Armstrong stepping onto the lunar surface, heard his famous words, "That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind." But in the dream, Armstrong was holding a wooden box, identical to the one on Elon's nightstand. Elon woke up at 3 a.m., his heart racing. The box seemed to glow in the darkness of his bedroom. Claire slept peacefully beside him. Unaware of his strange dreams, he got up and went to his office, carrying the box with him. He sat in his desk chair and held it up to the light. The carved patterns seemed to shift and move, like they were alive. "What are you?" Elon whispered to the box. "What do you want from me?" The box, of course, didn't answer. But somehow Elon felt like it was listening. As dawn broke over Austin, Elon made a decision. He had spent 3 days wondering and waiting. It was time to open the box and discover what Helen Chen's father had wanted him to see. He placed the box on his desk and took a deep breath. Whatever was inside, his life was about to change. He could feel it. The carved patterns seemed to pulse. With anticipation as Elon reached for the small clasp that would unlock the mystery, Elon's hands trembled slightly as he touched the small brass clasp. It was warm, almost hot, under his fingertips. The metal looked old but well-maintained, like someone had polished it regularly for many years. He took a deep breath and opened the box. The hinges moved silently, as if they had been oiled recently. Inside, the box was lined with dark blue velvet that looked like a night sky. 3 items lay nestled in the soft fabric, each wrapped carefully in yellowed tissue paper. Elon unwrapped the first item with gentle fingers. It was a small piece of metal, no bigger than a silver dollar. The surface was smooth and dark gray, almost black, with tiny flecks that sparkled like stars. It felt surprisingly heavy for its size and warm to the touch. The metal had an unusual texture, not quite like anything Elon had ever felt before. The second item was a folded letter, written on paper that had turned yellow with age. The handwriting was neat and careful, done with a fountain pen in blue-black ink. At the top of the page, Elon could see a date, July 20th, 1969, the day humans first walked on the moon. The third item was a photograph, black and white and slightly faded. It showed Earth from space, a beautiful blue and white marble floating in the darkness. But there was something strange about the image. In the upper right corner, barely visible, was a small bright object that didn't look like any spacecraft Elon knew about. Elon set the metal piece aside carefully and unfolded the letter. His heart raced as he read the words written over 55 years ago. "My dearest Helen, today you were born, and today humans walked on the moon. What a wonderful day to come into this world. By the time you read this, I will probably be gone, and you will be grown up with children of your own. I am writing this letter in my office at NASA, just hours after Neil and Buzz returned from the lunar surface. Everyone is celebrating, but I needed some quiet time to think about what happened up there. Helen, I need to tell you something that I can never tell anyone else. During the mission, we detected something unusual, an object that followed Apollo 11 to the moon and back. It stayed hidden from our cameras most of the time, but we knew it was there. On the moon's surface, while Neil and Buzz were collecting rock samples, they found something that wasn't supposed to be there. A small piece of metal that didn't match anything in our periodic table. The astronauts were told to keep it secret, but Neil gave it to me when they returned. I have studied this metal for weeks now. It is unlike anything on Earth. The atomic structure is impossible according to our science. I believe it came from the object that followed us to the moon. I think someone, or something, was watching humanity take its first steps into space. They left us this gift as a sign that we are not alone in the universe. I am keeping this metal safe, along with the only photograph that shows the mysterious object. Someday, when humanity is ready to travel beyond our solar system, someone will need to know the truth. I pray that person will be someone who dreams of taking our species to the stars. Someone who understands that this metal is not just a curiosity, but a key to our future among the stars. Helen, when you find that person, give them this box. Tell them that humanity has been invited to join something much bigger than ourselves. All my love, your father, James Chun. Elon read the letter 3 times, his hands shaking more with each reading. Dr. James Chun had kept an alien artifact for over 50 years. The implications were staggering. If this was real, if the metal really came from extraterrestrial visitors, it would change everything humanity knew about its place in the universe. He picked up the metal fragment again, examining it closely. Under his desk lamp, the sparkles in the dark surface seemed to move and shift. The metal felt warm, almost alive. Elon had handled thousands of metal samples in his career. This was different. This was impossible. The photograph troubled him even more. He held it up to the light, studying the mysterious bright object in the corner. It was too regular to be a star, too bright to be space debris. And according to Dr. Chen's letter, it had followed Apollo 11 to the moon. Elon's phone buzzed. A text from Claire, running errands. Back this afternoon. Try to eat something. He looked at his watch. It was already noon. He had been staring at the box's contents for hours without realizing it. His coffee had gone cold, and he hadn't eaten breakfast, but food was the last thing on his mind. He needed answers. He needed to know if Dr. Chen's story was true. Elon picked up his phone and scrolled through his contacts. He found the number. For Dr. Sarah Kim, SpaceX's head of materials science. She was brilliant, trustworthy, and currently working at the Starbase facility in Texas. Sarah, it's Elon. I need you to analyze something for me. Can you come to my house today? Of course. Dr. Kim replied. What kind of analysis? Bring your portable equipment. And Sarah, this needs to stay completely confidential. Don't tell anyone else about this. Understood. I'll be there in 2 hours. While waiting for Dr. Kim, Elon researched everything he could find about the Apollo 11 mission. He read technical reports, astronaut interviews, and declassified NASA documents. Most of it was familiar, but he looked for any mention of unusual objects or mysterious findings. He found several references to anomalous readings during the mission, but no details. The astronauts had reported some equipment malfunctions that couldn't be explained. There were gaps in the radio communications that lasted longer than officially reported. Most interesting was a brief mention in Buzz Aldrin's personal notes, discovered years later. Aldrin had written about seeing something that shouldn't have been there during their moon walk, but he never explained what he meant. Dr. Sarah Kim arrived exactly 2 hours later, carrying a metal case full of analysis equipment. She was a small woman with short black hair and sharp, intelligent eyes. She had worked with Elon for 3 years and had never seen him look so serious. What do you need me to look at? She asked, setting up her portable spectrometer on Elon's desk. Elon handed her the metal fragment without explanation. Tell me everything you can about this. Dr. Kim examined the piece visually first, turning it over in her hands. Interesting texture, very dense, unusual color. She placed it under her digital microscope and frowned. The surface structure is strange, almost crystalline, but not quite. She ran the fragment through several tests: spectrometry, density measurement, magnetic field analysis. With each test, her frown deepened. After an hour of work, she sat back and stared at the results on her laptop screen. Elon, where did you get this? She asked quietly. What? Dr. Kim pointed to her computer screen, which showed complex graphs and data charts. The isotope ratios are impossible. This metal contains elements that don't exist naturally in our solar system. The atomic structure suggests it was formed under conditions that we've never observed. Elon felt his heart skip a beat. What are you saying? I'm saying this material isn't from Earth. It's not from Mars or Jupiter or anywhere else in our solar system. Dr. Kim looked at the fragment with new respect. Elon, this is extraterrestrial. Not like a meteorite. This was manufactured by an intelligence that understands physics better than we do. The room fell silent except for the hum of Dr. Kim's equipment. Elon stared at the small piece of metal that had traveled billions of miles to reach his desk. Helen Chen's father had been right. Humanity was not alone in the universe. Sarah, you can't tell anyone about this, Elon said finally. I understand. But Elon, if this is real, if we really have proof of extraterrestrial intelligence. She trailed off, overwhelmed by the implications. I know, Elon said. Everything changes. He looked at the photograph again, at the mysterious bright object, watching Apollo 11 from the darkness of space. 55 years ago, someone had left humanity a gift, a sign that we were ready to join something bigger. But were they still watching? Were they waiting for humanity to prove itself worthy of contact? Elon picked up the metal fragment and felt its impossible warmth. Whatever happened next, he knew his life would never be the same. The box had delivered on Helen Chen's promise. He was beginning to understand. The next morning, Elon couldn't concentrate on anything. He sat in his home office, staring at the metal fragment while his coffee grew cold. Dr. Sarah Kim had packed up her equipment and left the night before, promising to keep everything secret. But Elon could see the excitement and fear in her eyes. She understood what this discovery meant. Claire found him there at noon, still holding the alien metal. "You didn't come to bed last night," she said, sitting down across from him. "Elon, what's really going on?" Elon looked at the woman he loved. Claire was brilliant, practical, and trustworthy. If anyone could help him figure out what to do next, it was her. He made a decision. "I need to show you something," he said. "But first, you have to promise me you won't tell anyone. Not your colleagues, not your family, not anyone." Claire frowned. "You're scaring me. Promise me." "I promise." Elon handed her Dr. Chen's letter and watched her face change as she read it. Her eyes grew wide, then narrowed with scientific skepticism, then wide again. "This can't be real," she whispered. Elon showed her the photograph and the metal fragment. He told her about Dr. Kim's analysis, about the impossible isotope ratios and the extraterrestrial origin. Claire held the metal piece, feeling its strange warmth. "If this is true, if we really made contact in 1969, then everything we thought we knew about human history is wrong," Elon finished. They sat in silence for several minutes, both trying to process the implications. Finally, Claire spoke. "What are you going to do?" "I don't know," Elon admitted. "But I need to learn more. I need to find out if there are other people who know about this." That afternoon, Elon made several phone calls. He used his connections in the aerospace industry to request meetings with former NASA officials. He was careful not to reveal too much, but he asked pointed questions about Apollo 11 and any classified information that might still be secret. His first breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Jim Bridenstine, the former NASA administrator, agreed to meet him for lunch in Houston. Bridenstine had always been supportive of SpaceX and seemed genuinely curious about Elon's mysterious questions. They met at a quiet restaurant near Johnson Space Center. Bridenstine was a careful man who had spent years dealing with government secrets and political pressure. "You're asking about things that happened before I was born," Bridenstine said over his sandwich. "But I've heard stories, rumors that were passed down through the NASA community." "What kind of stories?" Elon asked. Bridenstine looked around the restaurant, making sure no one was listening. There were always whispers about Apollo 11, things that didn't make it into the official reports. Radio blackouts that lasted longer than we admitted. Equipment readings that made no sense. He leaned forward and lowered his voice. "I once met a flight controller who worked that mission. She was in her 80s when I talked to her, maybe 10 years ago. She said there were things about Apollo 11 that would never be declassified." "Is she still alive?" Elon asked. "I think so. Her name is Dr. Patricia Williams. She lives in a retirement community in Florida now. But Elon, if you're thinking about contacting her, be careful. Some secrets were kept secret for good reasons." Elon flew to Florida the next day. Dr. Patricia Williams lived in a nice retirement home in Clearwater with palm trees and a view of the Gulf of Mexico. She was 85 years old, with white hair and sharp blue eyes that missed nothing. "Mr. Musk," she said when they met in the facility's quiet library. "Jim Bridenstine called me yesterday. He said you had questions about Apollo 11. "I do," Elon said. "But first, I need to show you something." He pulled out his phone and showed her a photograph of the metal fragment. Dr. Williams stared at the image for a long time, her hands beginning to shake. "Where did you get this?" she whispered. "From the daughter of Dr. James Chun. He worked on the life support systems for Apollo 11. Dr. Williams closed her eyes and took a deep breath. When she opened them again, tears were running down her cheeks. "I haven't seen that piece of metal in 55 years, she said. "But I remember it clearly. We all do, those of us who were there that day." She looked around the library, making sure they were alone. Then she began to tell Elon a story that had been kept secret for over half a century. 3 days into the mission, we detected an object following Apollo 11, she said quietly. It stayed exactly the same distance behind them, matching their speed perfectly. At first we thought it was debris, but debris doesn't change course to stay hidden. Dr. Williams explained how the mysterious object had followed the astronauts all the way to the moon. It never appeared on their cameras, always staying in their blind spot. On the lunar surface, Neil Armstrong's heart rate spiked during what should have been a routine sample collection. He reported equipment malfunctions, but later we realized he was using code words. He was trying to tell us something without saying it directly over the radio. What was he trying to say? Elon asked. That they weren't alone on the moon. The object had landed nearby, just out of sight, and it had left something for them too. Fine. Dr. Williams described how the astronauts had discovered the metal fragment near their landing site. It was clearly artificial, clearly not human-made, and clearly placed there intentionally. We knew immediately that we had proof of extraterrestrial intelligence, she said. But the decision was made at the highest levels to keep it secret. The world wasn't ready for that knowledge. Who made that decision? Elon asked. Presidents, generals, scientists. People who thought they were protecting humanity from panic and chaos. Dr. Williams shook her head sadly. Maybe they were right. Maybe the world really wasn't ready in 1969. She told Elon about the cover-up that followed. The metal fragment was given to Dr. Chun for analysis, with strict orders to keep it secret. The photograph showing the mysterious object was classified. The astronauts were sworn to secrecy. Neil Armstrong never spoke about it publicly, Dr. Williams said. But those of us who knew him could see it changed him. He carried that secret for the rest of his life. What do you think the object was? Elon asked. Dr. Williams smiled sadly. I think it was a test, to see if humanity was ready for contact. The metal fragment was like a calling card, proof that we weren't alone. But we failed the test by hiding the truth. And now, Mr. Musk, maybe it's time for a second chance. You're taking humans to Mars. You're pushing our species beyond Earth. Maybe that's what they were waiting for. Elon felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. If Dr. Williams was right, if the metal fragment was indeed a test, then humanity had been given a second opportunity. Dr. Williams, if I were to reveal this information publicly, would you support me? The old woman thought for a long moment. Mr. Musk, I'm 85 years old. I've kept this secret my entire adult life. If there's a chance to finally tell the truth, to give humanity the knowledge it deserves, then yes, I would support you. Elon thanked Dr. Williams and flew back to Texas that evening. As his plane crossed the dark Gulf of Mexico, he stared out at the stars and wondered if someone was watching. The metal fragment in his pocket seemed to pulse with warmth, as if responding to his thoughts. Back home, Claire was waiting with dinner and questions. What did you learn? She asked. Elon told her everything Dr. Williams had revealed. Claire listened in amazement as the full scope of the cover-up became clear. So what happens now? She asked when he finished. Elon picked up the metal fragment and held it up to the light. The mysterious sparkles in its surface seemed to dance. Now I have to decide whether humanity is ready for the truth, he said, the knowledge consumed. Elon like a fever. For 3 weeks after meeting Dr. Williams, he barely slept. He would lie in bed staring at the ceiling, thinking about the metal fragment and what it meant for humanity's future. The warm piece of alien technology sat on his nightstand, seeming to pulse with its own heartbeat. Claire grew more worried each day. She found him at his desk at all hours, sketching designs for spacecraft that looked nothing like current SpaceX rockets. His new drawings included strange communication arrays and defensive systems that made no sense for Mars missions. You're losing yourself in this, Claire said one morning, bringing him coffee he wouldn't drink. When was the last time you ate a real meal? Elon looked up from his computer screen, his eyes red and tired. I can't stop thinking about it, Claire. If they made contact in 1969, what does that mean for our Mars missions? What if we're not alone out there? What if we encounter them again? Then, we deal with it when it happens, Claire said firmly. But right now, you're destroying yourself with worry about something that might never occur. But Elon couldn't let it go. He started making changes to SpaceX's upcoming missions. During engineering meetings, he insisted on adding advanced communication equipment that his team didn't understand. Why do we need this level of signal processing for Mars? Asked Dr. Tom Rodriguez, his chief engineer. We're going to another planet, not trying to contact aliens. Elon almost laughed at the irony. Just trust me on this, he said. We need to be prepared for anything. His strange behavior didn't go unnoticed. Tech journalists started writing articles about Elon's erratic decisions and mysterious new priorities. Tesla stock dropped 5% after rumors spread that he was having another breakdown. His mother May called him from New York, her voice full of concern. Elon, darling, I'm seeing stories about you in the news. Are you taking care of yourself? I'm fine, Mom, Elon lied. Just working on some new projects. You don't sound fine. You sound exhausted. Maybe you should take a vacation. A vacation? Elon almost laughed. How could he take a vacation when he possessed proof that humanity had made contact with extraterrestrial intelligence? How could he relax when he might be the only person who could prepare Earth for what was coming? That evening, Kimball came to the house unannounced. He found Elon in his office, surrounded by printouts of classified NASA documents and sketches of spacecraft designs. This has to stop, Kimball said, looking around at the chaos. Whatever this obsession is, it's destroying you. You don't understand, Elon said, holding up the metal fragment. This changes everything. Everything we thought we knew about human history, about our place in the universe. Kimball examined the strange piece of metal. It's interesting, I'll give you that. But Elon, you're acting like the world is going to end. Maybe it is. Or maybe it's going to begin. I don't know which is scarier. Kimball sat down across from his brother. Tell me what's really going on. All of it. Elon hesitated. He had promised Dr. Williams and Dr. Kim that he would keep the secret. But he needed help, and Kimball was family. He told his brother everything. About Helen Chun and the wooden box. About Dr. Chen's letter and the Apollo 11 cover-up. About the metal fragment's impossible properties and what Dr. Williams had revealed. Kimball listened without interrupting, his expression growing more serious with each revelation. If this is true, Kimball said finally, then you're carrying one of the biggest secrets in human history. I know, and I don't know what to do with it. Have you considered that maybe you're not supposed to do anything? Maybe the secret was kept for good reasons. Elon shook his head. Dr. Williams said it was a test, that they were waiting to see if humanity was ready for contact. Maybe our space program, our missions to Mars, maybe that's the sign they were waiting for. Or maybe they're long gone, and this is just an old artifact. But even as Kimball said it, he touched the metal fragment and felt its impossible warmth. This wasn't just an old artifact. This was something active, something alive. The next day brought more problems. During a SpaceX board meeting, investors questioned Elon's recent decisions and budget increases. These new communication systems are costing us millions, said board member Janet Morrison. Can you explain why they're necessary? Elon struggled to answer without revealing the truth. Space exploration requires us to be prepared for unknowns. These systems give us better capabilities for deep space missions. But we're going to Mars, not deep space, another board member pointed out. Mars is just the beginning, Elon said. We need to think bigger. After the meeting, Gwynne Shotwell, SpaceX's president, pulled him aside. Elon, the board is getting nervous. These mysterious budget increases and strange design changes are making people wonder if you're losing focus. I'm more focused than I've ever been, Elon insisted. Then help me understand what you're focusing on. Because from the outside, it looks like you're preparing for something that doesn't exist. Elon wanted to tell Gwynne everything. She was brilliant, trustworthy, and had been with SpaceX since the beginning. But revealing the truth would mean admitting that he had been keeping secrets from his closest collaborators. That night, Elon stood on his back porch, looking up at the stars. The metal fragment was warm in his pocket, warmer than usual. He pulled it out and held it up to the night sky. For a moment, he could have sworn one of the stars flickered in response. Claire joined him outside, wrapping a blanket around her shoulders. Against the cool Texas night. You can't keep carrying this alone, she said softly. What if I'm wrong? Elon asked. What if I reveal this information and cause worldwide panic for nothing? What if you're right and you don't reveal it? Claire countered. What if they're still out there, still watching, still waiting for humanity to prove we're ready? Elon looked at the metal fragment again. In the starlight, the tiny sparkles in its surface seemed to move like living things. Dr. Chen kept this secret for 55 years, he said. It destroyed him. I can see it in the letter he wrote to Helen. The weight of it, the loneliness of being the only one who knew. You're not the only one who knows anymore, Claire reminded him. You have Dr. Williams, Dr. Kim, me, Kimball. You have people who believe you and want to help. Elon nodded, but he still felt the crushing weight of responsibility. If he revealed the truth, he would change the world forever. If he kept it secret, he might miss humanity's chance to join something greater than itself. The metal fragment pulsed with warmth in his hand, as if urging him to make a decision. Soon, he thought. Soon he would have to choose between the safety of silence and the risk of truth. The decision came to Elon during a sleepless night in early March. He needed answers that only one person could give him. Helen Shun had carried her father's secret. For decades, she had made the choice to give him the box. Maybe she could help him understand what he was supposed to do next. The problem was that Helen had disappeared as completely as she had appeared that night at the airport. Elon knew her name and that her father was Dr. James Chun, but nothing else. She could be anywhere in the country. The next morning, Elon called Marcus Webb, a private investigator he had used before when dealing with corporate espionage. Marcus was discreet, thorough, and never asked uncomfortable questions. I need you to find someone, Elon said during their phone call. A woman named Helen Chun, probably in her 60s. Her father was Dr. James Chun, who worked for NASA from 1965 to 1971. That's not much to go on, Marcus said. Do you have any idea where she might be living? Somewhere in California, maybe. Her father worked there after leaving NASA. I'll see what I can do. Give me a week. Marcus worked faster than expected. 3 days later, he called with results. Found her, Marcus said. Helen Shun, age 62, lives in Mountain View, California. She's a retired librarian. Owns a small house on Elm Street, not far from where her father used to work. She's lived there for about 20 years. Elon felt a mixture of relief and nervousness. Are you sure it's the right person? Pretty sure. I found some old newspaper clippings about her father's death last November. She was mentioned as his only surviving family member. Elon booked a flight to San Francisco that same afternoon. He told Claire he had business meetings in California, which wasn't entirely a lie. This was the most important business of his life. The flight gave him time to think about what he would say to Helen. She had given him the box without explanation, trusting that he would understand when the time was right. Now he did understand, but he needed her guidance about what came next. Helen's house was small and neat, with a tiny front yard full of flowers. It looked like the home of someone who valued quiet, simple pleasures. Elon parked his rental car across the street and sat for a few minutes, gathering his courage. When he finally knocked on the door, Helen answered immediately, as if she had been expecting him. Mr. Musk, she said with a gentle smile. I wondered when you would come. She looked older than she had at the airport, more fragile. Her silver hair was loose around her shoulders, and she wore a simple blue sweater and jeans. But her eyes were still kind and intelligent. You opened the box, she said. It wasn't a question. Yes, Elon replied. 3 weeks ago. Helen nodded and invited him inside. The house was filled with books and her father's space memorabilia, but Elon noticed other things too. Crystals arranged in precise geometric patterns. On the windowsills, notebooks filled with equations and star charts covering the coffee table. Please, sit down, Helen said, gesturing to a comfortable couch. I'll make some tea. While she was in the kitchen, Elon examined the notebooks more closely. The equations were unlike anything he had seen before. They dealt with faster-than-light travel, dimensional physics, and energy patterns that defied known science. Helen returned with 2 cups of herbal tea and sat across from him. Dad changed after Apollo 11, she said without being asked. He was never the same man who left for work that morning in July 1969. What happened to him? Elon asked. He became obsessed with understanding what he had experienced. He spent the rest of his life trying to figure out the science behind that metal fragment. He believed it was more than just proof of alien contact. He thought it was a key. Helen showed Elon one of the notebooks. The pages were covered with her father's careful handwriting, documenting 50 years of research into the fragment's properties. He discovered that the metal responds to certain electromagnetic frequencies, Helen explained. When exposed to the right energy patterns, It creates fields that seem to bend space-time itself. Elon's heart raced. This was exactly what Dr. Kim had observed during her analysis. Did he ever get it to work? Not fully. He didn't have the right equipment, but he came close. Helen turned to a page near the back of the notebook. Look at this. The page showed a diagram of what looked like a communication device, with the metal fragment at its center. Dr. Chun had written detailed notes about frequency modulations and signal patterns. He believed the fragment was designed to work with advanced technology, Helen said. Technology that humanity didn't possess in 1969, but might develop eventually. Technology like what we have now, Elon said, understanding dawning on him. Helen nodded. Dad said the fragment was waiting for the right person at the right time. Someone with the resources and knowledge to unlock its true purpose. Which is what exactly? Helen's eyes grew distant. Communication. Dad believed it was a communication device designed to contact whoever left it for us. But only when humanity was ready to reach beyond our own solar system. Elon felt the metal fragment in his pocket grow warm, as if responding to their conversation. Helen, why me? Why did your father want me to have this? Because you're taking humans to Mars, she said simply. You're proving that our species is ready to become interplanetary. Dad always said that when humanity could travel between worlds regularly, that would be the sign that we were ready for contact. But what if I'm wrong? What if I use this device and nothing happens? Or worse, what if something terrible happens? Helen stood up and walked to the window, looking out at her. Small garden. Dad carried this burden for 55 years, Mr. Musk. The loneliness of knowing we weren't alone, but not being able to share that knowledge. It ate at him like a disease. She turned back to Elon with tears in her eyes. He made me promise to find the right person when he died. Someone brave enough to take the next step. I chose you because you've already dedicated your life to expanding humanity's reach into space. What if the world isn't ready for this truth? What if it is? Helen countered. What if we've been ready for decades, but the people in power were too scared to trust us with the knowledge? Elon sipped his tea and thought about Dr. Williams' words. The cover-up had been based on fear that humanity would panic, would fight, would destroy itself with the knowledge that we weren't alone. There's something else, Helen said quietly. She went to a bookshelf and pulled out a small wooden frame. Inside was another photograph, this one showing her father as a young man, standing next to the Apollo 11 command module. But it wasn't Dr. Chen that caught Elon's attention. In the background, barely visible, was the same mysterious bright object that appeared in the photograph from the box. This was taken at Johnson Space Center 3 days after the astronauts returned, Helen explained. Dad kept it hidden for decades. Look at the timestamp. Elon examined the photo closely. The timestamp showed July 27, 1969. The mysterious object had followed Apollo 11 not just to the moon and back, but had remained near Earth for days after the mission ended. They were waiting, Helen whispered, waiting to see what we would do with their gift. And when nothing happened, they left, Elon said, understanding. But maybe they're still watching. Maybe they've been waiting all this time for someone to use the fragment properly. Elon stood up, decision crystallizing in his mind. Helen, will you help me? Will you help me figure out how to use your father's research? Helen smiled through her tears. Mr. Musk, I've been waiting my whole life for someone to ask me that question. Helen packed her father's research into 3 large boxes. 55 years of notes, calculations, and theories about the alien fragment. She insisted on flying back to Texas with Elon that same day. I've been alone with this secret for too long, she said as they loaded the boxes into his rental car. If we're going to do this, we need to do it together. During the flight to Austin, Helen explained more of her father's discoveries. Dr. Chun had spent decades trying to understand the fragment's properties. He had built small devices to test its responses to different energy frequencies. Most attempts failed, but a few had produced strange results. Once, when I was 12, Dad's equipment made the fragment glow so brightly that it lit up his entire workshop, Helen said. The light was blue-white, like starlight. But then something overloaded and all the power in our neighborhood went out. Elon listened carefully, his mind racing with possibilities. Modern technology was far more advanced than what Dr. Chen had, available in the 1970s and 1980s. With SpaceX's resources and equipment, They might actually succeed in activating the fragment properly. Back at Starbase, Elon cleared out a secure laboratory for their work. He told his team it was for a classified project that required absolute secrecy. Only Dr. Sarah Kim was allowed access, and only because her expertise with the fragment was essential. Helen spread her father's notebooks across several tables, organizing them by date and topic. The progression of Dr. Chen's research was clear. In the early years, he had focused on understanding the fragment's basic properties. Later, he had developed theories about how it might function as a communication device. "Look at this," Helen said, pointing to a notebook from 1985. Dad calculated that the fragment responds to electromagnetic pulses in a specific pattern. Like a code, Elon studied the calculations. They were sophisticated, showing deep understanding of physics and engineering. "Your father was brilliant. These equations are decades ahead of their time." "He had help," Helen said quietly. Sometimes he would dream about the fragment. In his dreams, someone would show him new equations, new ways to think about the physics. He would wake up and write everything down. Dr. Kim arrived that evening, carrying her analysis equipment. She examined Dr. Chen's notebooks with growing excitement. "This is incredible," she said. "He figured out things about the fragment that my tests only hinted at. If these calculations are correct, the fragment isn't just a communication device. It's a key to technologies we can barely imagine." They worked through the night, combining Dr. Chen's theoretical work with modern testing equipment. Slowly, a picture emerged of what the fragment could do. "It's like a quantum transmitter, DR," Kim explained. "When activated properly, it can send signals across vast distances instantly. No light speed delay, no signal degradation. Perfect communication across interstellar space." "But to who?" Elon asked. "To whoever gave it to us," Helen said. "Dad believed they were still out there, still listening, waiting for us to prove we understood their gift." The implications were staggering. If they could activate the fragment and make contact, it would change human civilization forever. But it would also reveal the truth about Apollo 11 and the decades-long cover-up. Elon called an emergency meeting with his closest advisors the next morning. Without revealing the fragment's true nature, he presented them with a hypothetical scenario. "Imagine we discovered technology that could revolutionize space communication," he said to Gwynne Shotwell, his brother Kimball, and his chief engineer Tom Rodriguez. "But using it would also reveal information that could cause worldwide panic. What would you do?" Gwynne was practical as always. "Depends on the benefits versus the risks. If the technology could save lives or advance human knowledge significantly, then we might have a moral obligation to use it. But carefully," Tom added. "Any revolutionary technology needs to be introduced gradually, with proper preparation and safeguards." Kimball was more philosophical. "If this hypothetical technology came from, let's say, an external source, then maybe the decision isn't really ours to make. Maybe we're just the messengers." That afternoon, Elon made a secure phone call to Dr. Patricia Williams in Florida. He needed the perspective of someone who had lived with this secret for decades. "Dr. Williams, if you had the chance to make contact with them again, would you take it?" The elderly woman was quiet for a long moment. "Mr. Musk, I've spent 55 years wondering what would have happened if we had been brave enough to tell the truth in 1969. I think about it every day. That's not an answer to my question." "Yes, it is," Dr. Williams said firmly. "The answer is yes. If there's a chance to finally do the right thing, to give humanity the truth it deserves, then we have to take it." That evening, Elon stood in the laboratory with Helen and the metal fragment. They had spent 2 days preparing the activation sequence based on Dr. Chen's research. The equipment was ready. All they needed was Elon's decision to proceed. "What if nothing happens?" he asked Helen. "Then we'll know we tried," she replied. "That's more than anyone has done in 55 years. What if something terrible happens? What if we trigger some kind of invasion or conflict?" Helen picked up one of her father's notebooks and read from it. "Dad wrote this in 1995. Any species advanced enough to travel between stars would not need to trick us into making contact. If they meant us harm, they could have acted already. The fragment is a gift, not a trap." Elon thought about his children, about Claire, about the millions of people who had no idea their world was about to change. Was he being brave or reckless? Visionary or foolish? "There's something else to consider," Dr. Kim said quietly. She had been monitoring deep space signals for the past week, using SpaceX's most sensitive equipment. I've been detecting unusual patterns in background radiation. Very faint, but definitely artificial. She showed them the data on her laptop. The patterns were subtle, but they matched the frequency signatures that the fragment produced during their tests. I think they're already trying to contact us, Dr. Kim said. These signals have been getting stronger over the past month, ever since we started working with the fragment. Elon felt his heart racing. You think they know we have it? I think they know we're finally ready to use it properly. Helen placed her hand on Elon's shoulder. My father spent his whole life waiting for this moment. He believed that when humanity could travel to other worlds, we would be ready for this knowledge. Elon looked around the laboratory at the equipment they had assembled. Decades of human technological advancement, combined with alien science that was beyond their full understanding. It was either humanity's greatest opportunity or its greatest risk. If we do this, everything changes, he said. Everything changed the moment you opened that box, Helen replied. Now we just have to decide whether we're going to hide from the truth or embrace it. Elon took a deep breath and made his choice. Let's make the call. The activation sequence took 3 days to prepare properly. Helen worked 18-hour days, translating her father's handwritten notes into digital formats that could interface with SpaceX's modern equipment. Her fingers moved across computer keyboards with surprising speed for someone who had spent most of her career as a librarian. Dad would be amazed by what we can do now, she said, connecting the fragment to a sophisticated electromagnetic field generator. In his time, he had to build everything by hand with parts from electronic stores. Dr. Kim ran constant tests on the fragment's responses to different energy patterns. Each test revealed new properties that defied conventional physics. The metal seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously, responding to stimuli that shouldn't affect normal matter. It's like the fragment is partially phased into another reality, Dr. Kim explained to Elon during one late-night session. When we apply the correct frequencies, it becomes more solid in our dimension and less solid in others. Elon found himself thinking differently about space travel and communication. If the fragment's technology could be understood and replicated, it would revolutionize everything. Trips to Mars could take days instead of months. Communication with Earth colonies would be instantaneous instead of delayed by light speed limitations. But first, they had to prove the technology worked. And that meant making contact with whoever had left the fragment for humanity to find. The breakthrough came on the third night. Helen discovered a sequence of equations in her father's final notebook that he had never tested. The calculations were complex, involving quantum entanglement and dimensional resonance patterns that were barely understood even by modern science. Dad wrote this just weeks before he died, Helen said, her voice filled with emotion. Look at the date. It's from last October. He knew his time was running out. The equations described a specific activation protocol that would turn the fragment into a beacon, not just sending a signal into space, but announcing humanity's presence across multiple dimensions simultaneously. This is it, Dr. Kim breathed, studying the calculations. This is how we make first contact. Elon felt the weight of the moment. Once they activated the beacon, there would be no going back. Humanity would have announced itself to the galaxy. For better or worse, he called Claire that evening, though. He couldn't tell her exactly what was happening. I may be making a decision that changes everything, he said, holding her hand as they sat on their back porch. I need you to know that whatever happens, I love you. Claire squeezed his hand. You're scaring me. What's going on? I can't explain yet. But if something big happens in the next few days, something that seems impossible, I need you to trust that it's for the best. Elon, you're talking like you're about to die or something. He kissed her forehead. Not die, but the world might. Change in ways we can't imagine. And I might be responsible for those changes. Claire studied his face in the porch light. Whatever you're planning, just promise me you're not doing it alone. I'm not. I have good people helping me. People who understand what's at stake. The next morning, Elon made a series of careful phone calls to world leaders and space agency directors. Without revealing specifics, he suggested they monitor deep space communications over the next few days. We may detect some unusual signals, he told NASA Administrator Bill Nelson. If we do, It would be helpful if multiple agencies were prepared to verify and analyze the data. What kind of signals? Nelson asked. The kind that might require international cooperation to understand properly. Elon also reached out to his contacts at other space companies. Jeff Bezos at Blue Origin, the directors of the European Space Agency, even officials from the Chinese space program. If first contact was about to happen, it needed to be a human achievement, not just an American or SpaceX accomplishment. Meanwhile, Helen and Dr. Kim prepared the activation chamber. They had built a sophisticated array of equipment around the fragment, using every piece of advanced technology that SpaceX possessed. Electromagnetic field generators, quantum computers, communication arrays that could detect signals across the entire radio spectrum. "It's beautiful," Helen said, looking at the completed setup. The fragment sat at the center of the array, glowing softly with its internal warmth. Around it, screens and monitors displayed complex readouts and wave patterns. Dr. Kim ran final diagnostics on all systems. "Everything checks out. The equipment is responding normally to test signals. We're as ready as we'll ever be." Elon stood in the center of the laboratory, looking at what they had built. In a few hours, they would either make the most important discovery in human history, or prove that they had been chasing shadows and false hopes. "What do we say to them?" he asked Helen. "If this works, if someone actually responds, what's our first message?" Helen smiled, pulling out her father's final notebook. Dad thought about that too. He wrote a draft message, something he hoped humanity would send someday. She read from the notebook. "We are the children of Earth, ready to learn and grow beyond our small world. We thank you for your patience and your gift. We are listening." The message was simple, humble, and hopeful. It acknowledged both humanity's limitations and its potential. Elon couldn't think of anything better. "That's perfect," he said to Dr. Kim. Finished her final equipment checks. "All systems are green. The fragment is responding normally to test frequencies. We can begin activation whenever you're ready." Elon looked around the laboratory one more time. Helen sat at the main control console, her father's notebooks spread around her like sacred texts. Dr. Kim monitored the technical readouts, her fingers poised over emergency shutdown controls. The fragment glowed steadily in its array of equipment. Waiting. Outside, the Texas sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. In a few hours, darkness would fall, and they would send humanity's first intentional message to the stars. "Helen," Elon said quietly, "are you sure? Your father would approve of what we're doing." Helen's eyes filled with tears, but her voice was steady. He spent 55 years dreaming of this moment. He would be so proud that his daughter finally found someone brave enough to take the next step. Elon nodded and took his position at the secondary console. "Then let's honor his memory. Let's make the call." The activation began at exactly 9:47 p.m. Texas time. Helen's fingers moved across the control panel, following the sequence her father had spent decades perfecting. The fragment responded immediately, its soft glow intensifying as electromagnetic fields built around it. "Energy levels rising," Dr. Kim reported, watching her instruments. "Fragment temperature increasing, but within safe parameters." Elon monitored the communication arrays, watching for any response from deep space. The screens showed normal background radiation, the usual cosmic noise that filled the universe. But as the fragment's energy output increased, patterns began to emerge in the static. "I'm seeing something," Elon said, his heart racing. "Structured signals, very faint, but definitely artificial." Helen increased the power gradually, following her father's careful instructions. The fragment began to pulse with brilliant blue-white light, just as she remembered from her childhood. But this time, the equipment held steady. Modern technology could handle what had overloaded her father's homemade devices decades ago. "The signal is getting stronger," Dr. Kim announced. "It's not just random noise anymore. There's definitely intelligence behind these patterns." At 10:15 p.m., something extraordinary happened. The fragment's light suddenly stabilized, and all their instruments registered a massive spike in activity. The screens that had shown static moments before now displayed clear, organized data streams. "We're receiving a response," Elon whispered, hardly believing it. "Someone is answering." The message came not as words or images, but as pure information, transmitted directly into their computers. Complex mathematical equations, star charts showing the local galaxy, and what appeared to be a greeting protocol written in universal scientific principles. Helen began translating the mathematical language, tears streaming down her face. "They're saying hello," she sobbed. After 55 years, they're finally saying hello. The message was surprisingly simple once decoded. "We have been waiting. You are ready to learn." Elon felt a chill run down his spine. Ready to learn? What? As if responding to his question, the communication stream expanded. New information flooded their computers, not just messages, but technical specifications, scientific principles, and something that looked like a star map showing inhabited systems throughout the galaxy. "My God," Dr. Kim breathed, staring at her screens. "They're not just one species. This is a network, a community of civilizations spread across hundreds of star systems." The data included information about faster-than-light travel, clean energy generation, medical technologies that could eliminate most diseases, and agricultural methods that could feed billions without harming the environment. But the most important message was yet to come. At 10:43 p.m., the communication shifted to something more personal. Instead of technical data, they received what could only be described as a welcome message for humanity. "You have passed the first test." The message read when translated. "Your species has survived its violent adolescence and reached beyond its birth world. You have proven capable of cooperation and exploration despite great challenges." Few civilizations achieve this milestone. Elon realized they were being evaluated, had been evaluated for decades. The first test? What was the first test? Reaching beyond your planet with the intention of creating permanent settlements. Your Mars missions and space stations demonstrate that humanity thinks in terms of expansion and survival, not just temporary exploration. Helen laughed through her tears. Dad was right. It was all about proving we could become an interplanetary species. The communication continued. "We are the Shepherds, a community of older civilizations dedicated to guiding younger species through the transition from planetary to galactic citizenship. We have been watching your species for thousands of years, waiting for signs of readiness." "Thousands of years?" Dr. Kim asked. "We influenced some of your early developments, mathematics, astronomy, the concept of space travel. We left markers throughout your history for those wise enough to recognize them. The fragment you possess is one such marker, given to you when you first touched another world." Elon understood now why the fragment had been left during Apollo 11. Humanity's first steps on the moon had been the signal the shepherds were waiting for. But then came the cover-up, the decision to hide the truth from the world. "We waited for you to develop the technology and wisdom necessary to use our gift properly," the message continued. "Your species shows great promise, but also great capacity for self-destruction. We needed to be certain you were ready for the responsibilities of galactic citizenship." "What responsibilities?" Elon asked aloud. The answer came immediately: to help guide other young civilizations as you mature yourselves, to contribute to the greater community of intelligent life, to help preserve knowledge and protect those who cannot yet protect themselves. The implications were staggering. Humanity wasn't just being invited to join an existing community. They were being asked to help expand and protect it. "There are challenges ahead," the shepherds warned. "Species that chose differently, that turned toward conquest and domination rather than cooperation and growth. Some pose threats to younger civilizations like yours. But together, we are stronger than any single threat." Dr. Kim looked up from her screens with wonder and fear in her eyes. "They're offering us membership in a galactic civilization, but also asking us to help defend it." The communication stream included coordinates for a meeting point, a space station hidden in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. The shepherds had maintained a presence in Earth's solar system for over a century, waiting for humanity to prove itself ready for contact. "We invite a delegation from your species to visit us," the message concluded. "Choose representatives who speak for all humanity, not just one nation or organization. This moment belongs to your entire species." At 11:30 p.m., the communication ended as suddenly as it had begun. The fragment's brilliant light faded back to its normal soft glow, and the screens returned to displaying background cosmic radiation. The laboratory fell silent except for the hum of cooling equipment. Helen, Elon, and Dr. Kim sat in stunned silence, processing what had just happened. "We did it," Helen whispered finally. "We actually did it." Elon looked at the data they had recorded, terabytes of information about technologies that could revolutionize human civilization, star maps showing hundreds of inhabited worlds, and an invitation to join something bigger than they had ever imagined. But he also understood the enormous responsibility they now carried. This knowledge couldn't be kept secret, but releasing it would change the world forever. Wars might be fought over access to alien technology. Governments might panic at the news that humanity was being watched and evaluated. "What do we do now?" Dr. Kim asked. Elon thought about Claire sleeping peacefully at home, unaware that her world had just changed forever. He thought about his children, who would grow up in a universe filled with friends and allies among the stars. He thought about the billions of people on Earth who deserved to know they weren't alone. "Now," Elon said, standing up and looking at the fragment that had started it all, "we tell the world." Helen nodded, clutching her father's notebook to her chest. "Dad always said this day would come. He said when it did, we would have to choose between fear and hope. Which do we choose?" Dr. Kim asked. Elon walked to the window and looked up at the stars, knowing now that many of them hosted civilizations that wanted to welcome humanity into their community. "We choose hope," he said. "We tell everyone that the universe is full of friends, and it's time for humanity to join them." The decision to reveal everything publicly came at 3 a.m. when Elon couldn't sleep and found himself staring at the fragment on his nightstand. Claire was sleeping peacefully beside him, unaware that her husband had just made first contact with an alien civilization. By dawn, Elon had called an emergency meeting with his closest advisors. He gathered them in the secure conference room. At Starbase, Gwynne Shotwell, his brother Kimball, Tom Rodriguez, and a few other key SpaceX executives. "What I'm about to tell you will sound impossible," Elon began, "but I need you to listen with open minds." He told them everything. About Helen Chun and the wooden box. About Dr. Chen's letter and the Apollo 11 cover-up. About the alien fragment. And the successful contact with the shepherds. His team listened in stunned silence as Elon explained how the previous night's communication had changed humanity's future forever. Gwynne was the first to speak. "You're saying we have proof of extraterrestrial intelligence, and you made contact with them last night?" "Yes," Elon said simply. "And they want to meet with human representatives?" "Yes, at a space station hidden in the asteroid belt." Tom Rodriguez shook his head in amazement. "This explains all the strange equipment modifications you've been requesting. You were preparing for this." Kimball leaned forward. "Elon, if this is real, if you really made contact, then this is the biggest moment in human history. We can't keep it secret." "I agree," Elon said, "which is why we're going public." Today, the room erupted in discussion. Questions about government, reactions, international implications, and public panic filled the air. But underneath the practical concerns, Elon could see excitement growing in his team's eyes. They were beginning to understand the magnitude of what had happened. "How do we even begin to explain this to the world?" Gwynne asked. Helen Chun, who had been quiet throughout the meeting, finally spoke. "We tell the truth, simply and completely. We show them the evidence and let them decide what to believe." That afternoon, Elon made the most important phone call of his life. He contacted every major news organization simultaneously, scheduling a press conference for 6 p.m. Texas time. The message was simple. SpaceX has made a discovery that will change humanity's understanding of its place in the universe. Within hours, reporters from around the world were flying to Texas. News vans filled the parking lot at Starbase. Satellite trucks beamed live signals across the globe. Social media exploded with speculation about what Elon Musk was planning to announce. The press conference was held in SpaceX's main assembly building, with a massive Starship rocket serving as the backdrop. Hundreds of journalists packed the space, their cameras focused on the simple podium where Elon would make his announcement. Helen Chun stood beside him, holding the wooden box that had started everything. Dr. Sarah Kim was nearby with her analysis equipment, ready to demonstrate the fragment's properties. Dr. Patricia Williams had flown in from Florida, despite her age, to provide historical context about the Apollo 11 cover. Up, exactly 6 p.m., Elon stepped up to the microphone. The room fell silent as cameras around the world captured the moment. "Ladies and gentlemen," Elon began. "3 months ago, a stranger at Austin Airport handed me a wooden box. What was inside that box has led to the most important discovery in human history." He told the story methodically, showing evidence at each step. The wooden box and its contents. Dr. Chen's letter from 1969. The alien metal fragment and Dr. Kim's analysis proving its extraterrestrial origin. Dr. Williams' testimony about the Apollo 11 cover-up. The reporters listened in stunned silence as Elon explained how they had used Dr. Chen's research to activate the fragment and make contact with the shepherds. Last night, at 9:47 p.m., humanity received its first communication from an advanced extraterrestrial civilization, Elon announced. "They told us we have passed the first test by becoming an interplanetary species. They are inviting us to join." A community of hundreds of civilizations spread across the galaxy. The room erupted. Reporters shouted questions. Cameras flashed. Some journalists looked skeptical, others amazed, still others frightened. Elon held up his hand for silence. "I know this sounds impossible. That's why we're providing all the evidence for independent verification. The fragment is here for any scientist to examine. The communication data is available for analysis. We are hiding nothing." Dr. Kim demonstrated the fragment's properties live on television, showing how it responded to electromagnetic fields in ways that defied known physics. The alien metal glowed and pulsed as she ran her tests, creating energy readings that made no sense according to conventional science. Helen Chen spoke about her father's 55 years of secrecy and his hope that someday humanity would be ready for this knowledge. Her emotional testimony moved many in the audience to tears. Dr. Williams, despite her age, spoke clearly about the Apollo 11 events she had witnessed firsthand. Her credentials as a NASA flight controller lent weight to her extraordinary claims. But the most dramatic moment came when Elon played a recording of the actual communication with the shepherds. The alien voices, translated through their computers, spoke directly to humanity. "We welcome you to the galactic community. Your species has shown great courage and determination in reaching for the stars. We look forward to working together to protect and guide younger civilizations as they, too, take their first steps into the cosmos." The recording sent shockwaves around the world. Within minutes, the story was trending on every social media platform. World leaders called emergency sessions. Stock markets crashed and recovered within hours as traders struggled to understand the implications. Some people celebrated. Others panicked. Religious leaders debated what this meant for humanity's understanding of creation. Scientists demanded access to the alien technology. Governments argued about who should represent Earth in negotiations with the shepherds. But through it all, Elon's message remained clear and hopeful. This is not an invasion or a threat, he emphasized during the question period. These are teachers and guides who want to help humanity grow and thrive among the stars. A reporter from CNN asked, "Mr. Musk, what happens next?" "We prepare for humanity's first official diplomatic mission to another species," Elon replied. "The shepherds have invited us to send representatives to their station in the asteroid belt. We will select a diverse delegation that represents all of humanity, not just one nation or organization." "Who will choose these representatives?" asked a journalist from the BBC. "That's not my decision alone," Elon said. "This belongs to all humanity. The United Nations, space agencies from every nation, and representatives from every continent should be involved in selecting our delegation." As the press conference ended, Elon felt a mixture of relief and anxiety. The secret was finally out. Humanity now knew it wasn't alone in the universe. But he also understood that his revelation would change everything about human society, politics, and culture. Helen Chen approached him as the reporters filed out. "Thank you," she said, tears in her eyes. Dad's dream finally came true. Elon looked at the fragment, still glowing softly on the demonstration table. "This is just the beginning, isn't it?" Helen nodded. "Dad always said that making contact was the easy part. Learning to be worthy of galactic citizenship, that would be the real challenge." Outside, the sun was setting over Texas, painting the sky in brilliant colors. But for the first time in human history, people looking up at those colors knew that The universe was full of friends waiting to welcome them home. 3 weeks after the press conference, the world had changed in ways no one could have imagined. Elon stood in the same laboratory where they had first made contact, watching news reports from around the globe on multiple screens. In Geneva, the United Nations had created a new department called the Office of Interplanetary Relations. In Washington, NASA was working with Congress to triple its budget for deep space missions. In Moscow, Beijing, and New Delhi, space agencies were sharing classified research for the first time in decades. But the most remarkable change was in ordinary people. Children drew pictures of friendly aliens in art class. Scientists collaborated across national boundaries like never before. Religious leaders spoke about humanity's responsibility to be good neighbors in the cosmic community. "Look at this," Dr. Kim said, pointing to one of the news screens. The European Space Agency just announced they're sharing all their propulsion research with NASA and SpaceX for free. Claire walked into the laboratory carrying coffee and sandwiches for the team. Over the past weeks, she had become their unofficial coordinator, helping manage the flood of requests and offers that arrived daily. "The Japanese just called," she told Elon. "They want to contribute their most advanced robotics to the diplomatic mission. And the Brazilians are offering their best environmental scientists." The international response had been overwhelming. Every nation wanted to contribute something to humanity's first diplomatic mission to the Shepherds. It was as if the entire planet had suddenly remembered that they were all members of the same species. Helen Shun had become something of a celebrity, though she handled the attention with quiet grace. She spent her days giving interviews and helping scientists understand her father's research. In the evenings, she worked with Elon's team to prepare for the mission to the asteroid belt. The delegation selection committee announced their final choices this morning, Helen said, joining them in the laboratory. 25 representatives from every continent and major culture: scientists, diplomats, philosophers, artists, and engineers. Elon had insisted that he wouldn't automatically be part of the delegation. This was bigger than SpaceX or any one person. But the International Committee had unanimously chosen him as mission commander, recognizing his role in making contact possible. Dr. Sarah Kim would lead the scientific team. Dr. Patricia Williams, despite her age, had volunteered to serve as historical advisor. Helen Shun would accompany them as the expert on her father's research and the fragment's properties. The most surprising selection was Maria Santos, a teacher from Sao Paulo who had written a letter to the UN about representing ordinary people. In first contact, her simple eloquence and genuine curiosity had impressed the selection committee. "I want to ask them about their children," Maria had said during her interview. "Do they play? Do they laugh? Do they dream about exploring the universe the way our children do?" The mission spacecraft was unlike anything ever built. Using principles learned from the Shepard's initial data transmission, SpaceX engineers had created a hybrid of human and alien technology. The ship could travel to the asteroid belt in days instead of months, powered by energy systems that barely consumed any fuel. Elon walked through the completed spacecraft with a sense of wonder. The communication arrays could maintain instant contact with Earth across interstellar distances. The life support systems were so efficient they could sustain the crew for years if necessary. The defensive systems were designed not for war, but for protection against the hazards of deep space. "It's beautiful," Helen said, joining him in the ship's main corridor. "Dad would have loved to see humanity's first interstellar-capable vessel." The launch was scheduled for the following week. Unlike most space missions, this one would be broadcast live to every nation on Earth. Children would skip school to watch. Adults would take time off work. The entire planet would hold its breath as humanity's representatives traveled to meet their galactic neighbors. But first, there was one more message from the Shepherds. The communication came on a Tuesday evening, exactly 1 month after first contact. The fragment in the laboratory began glowing brighter, and their equipment detected the familiar patterns of alien transmission. This time, the message was more personal. The Shepherds had been monitoring Earth's response to the revelation, and they were pleased with what they observed. "Your species has shown remarkable unity in the face of paradigm-shifting knowledge," the message read. "Most civilizations fragment and fight when they learn they are not alone. Instead, You have chosen cooperation and curiosity. This bodes well for your future among the stars. The shepherds also provided more details about the meeting location. The space station was called Haven, built over a century ago when they first established a presence in Earth's solar system. It housed representatives from dozens of species, all working together to guide younger civilizations through the transition to galactic citizenship. Haven is designed to be comfortable for many different forms of life, the message explained. You will find the environment suitable for human physiology, but you will also encounter beings very different from yourselves. We encourage you to approach these meetings with open minds and hearts. Most importantly, the shepherds addressed the fears that many humans still harbored about first contact. We understand that your species has a history of conflict and conquest, but membership in the galactic community is only offered to civilizations that have proven their capacity for peace and growth. We have watched you for millennia, and we believe you are ready for this responsibility. The message ended with coordinates for Haven and instructions for the diplomatic protocols that would govern the first meeting. As Elon prepared for the mission, he thought about how much had changed since that stormy night at Austin Airport. The wooden box that Helen Shun had given him had contained more than alien technology. It had contained humanity's future. The night before launch, Elon and Claire sat on their back porch, looking up at the stars. The same stars they had always seen. But now they knew those points of light represented worlds full of life, civilizations that had faced the same challenges humanity was facing now. Are you nervous? Claire asked. Terrified, Elon admitted. What if I say the wrong thing? What if I'm not worthy to represent humanity? Claire took his hand. You're not representing humanity alone. You have 24 other people with you, each chosen for their wisdom and expertise. And you have the support of everyone on Earth. What if something goes wrong? What if the shepherds change their minds about us? Then we'll deal with it together. All of us, as one species. Claire squeezed his hand. Elon, you've already proven that humanity is ready for this. You made the choice to reveal the truth instead of hiding it. You trusted our entire species with the most important knowledge in history. The next morning, billions of people around the world watched as the diplomatic mission launched from Starbase. The spacecraft rose into the Texas sky on pillars of blue flame, carrying humanity's hopes and dreams toward the asteroid belt. As Earth fell away below them, Elon looked back at the blue marble that had been humanity's entire universe for thousands of years. Soon, it would just be their first world among many. Helen Shin sat beside him, holding her father's notebook and the wooden box that had started everything. Thank you, she said quietly. For what? For being brave enough to open the box. For being the person my father believed you would be. Elon watched Earth shrink in the viewport as they traveled toward their appointment with the galaxy. Behind them, 7 billion people were learning what it meant to be citizens of the universe. Ahead of them, new friends waited to welcome humanity home. The journey to Haven took 4 days instead of the months it would have required with traditional human technology. The spacecraft moved through space like a dream, propelled by energies that Dr. Kim's instruments could measure but not fully. Explained out on the final day, as they approached the asteroid belt, their screens showed something impossible. What looked like empty space suddenly shimmered and revealed a massive space station larger than any city on Earth. Haven had been hidden by technology that bent light around it, making it invisible to human telescopes for over a century. My God, whispered Maria Santos, pressing her face to the viewport. It's beautiful. The station was indeed beautiful, built in elegant curves that seemed to flow like water frozen in space. Lights twinkled along its surface like stars, and docking bays opened to welcome them with gentle blue glows as their ship approached. Elon felt the fragment in his pocket grow warm. Helen Shun, sitting nearby, smiled and touched her father's notebook. He's here with us, she said softly. I can feel it. The docking was smooth and automatic. Their ship was guided into a bay that perfectly matched their vessel's dimensions, as if it had been built specifically for them. When the airlocks opened, Elon stepped into Haven for the first time. The air was clean and fresh, with a slight floral scent that reminded him of Claire's garden. The gravity felt normal, and the temperature was comfortable. But what took his breath away were the beings waiting to greet them. The shepherds were unlike anything humans had imagined. They appeared as tall, graceful figures made of pure light, shifting between different forms as they moved. Sometimes they looked almost human, sometimes like geometric patterns of energy, sometimes like nothing Elon could describe. Around them stood representatives from dozens of other species. Some were recognizably biological, creatures with 4 arms and silver skin, beings that looked like living crystals, others that resembled intelligent plants. Some existed as pure energy like the shepherds, while others wore environmental suits that hinted at forms too alien for human senses. The lead shepherd approached Elon's delegation. When it spoke, the words formed directly in their minds, translated instantly into each person's native language. "Welcome, children of Earth," the shepherd said. "We have waited so long for this moment." Dr. Patricia Williams, despite her age, stepped forward with tears in her eyes. "We should have done this 55 years ago. I'm sorry we waited so long." "You waited exactly as long as you needed to," the shepherd replied gently. "Every species finds its own path to readiness. Yours has been longer than some, shorter than others, but perfectly suited to who you are." Over the following hours, the human delegation was given a tour of Haven. They saw laboratories where dozens of species worked together on projects that spanned centuries. They visited museums containing the history of thousands of worlds. They observed meeting halls where representatives from across the galaxy collaborated on protecting and guiding younger civilizations. But the most profound moment came when Elon was invited to a private meeting with the lead shepherd. They sat in a quiet chamber overlooking the stars, with Earth visible as a tiny blue point in the distance. "You have questions," the shepherd said. "Many," Elon admitted. "But the biggest one is this: why us? Why was humanity chosen for this invitation?" The shepherd shifted its form, becoming more human-like in appearance. "Because of choices your species made when faced with knowledge that terrified you. When you learned you were not alone, you could have chosen fear, war, and isolation. Instead, you chose hope, cooperation, and unity. But that was just recently. You've been watching us for thousands of years." "Yes, and in all that time, we observed a species capable of remarkable growth. You created art that moved us to tears. You reached for the stars despite having no evidence anyone was waiting for you. You showed compassion for other forms of life on your own world." The shepherd paused, its form flickering with emotion. "But most importantly, when given the choice between keeping alien knowledge secret or sharing it with your entire species, you chose truth over control. That decision proved you were ready." Elon felt a chill of understanding. The fragment, it wasn't just a communication device, was it? No, it was a test. Every choice you made from the moment you touched it was observed and evaluated. Your curiosity instead of fear. Your decision to research rather than hide. Your willingness to trust others with the knowledge. Your choice to reveal everything publicly rather than use it for personal gain. The shepherd's form brightened. "Most individuals who find our markers try to use them for power or profit. You used yours to unite your species and prepare them for a larger universe. That is why you were chosen." "And Helen?" "Her father, Dr. Chun, was selected because we knew his daughter would eventually choose the right person to carry the message forward. Her choice of you was not random. It was the culmination of decades of observation and evaluation." Elon thought about the wooden box, about Helen's tears at the airport, about her father's 55 years of lonely research. So everything that happened was planned. Not planned, guided. There is a difference. You and your species always had the choice to act differently. You could have chosen fear over wonder, secrecy over transparency, division over unity. The fact that you chose wisely is what makes you worthy of membership in our community. When Elon returned to his delegation, he found them engaged in animated conversations with representatives from other worlds. Maria Santos was learning about alien art forms. Dr. Kim was discussing faster-than-light physics with a crystalline mathematician. Helen Shun was speaking with a being whose species had also lost their homeworld but found new purpose among the stars. The formal ceremonies began that evening. In a vast hall filled with representatives from hundreds of worlds, humanity was officially welcomed into the galactic community. The fragment from Dr. Chen's box was placed in a place of honor, representing Earth's first step toward the stars. "Today, a new voice joins our chorus," the lead shepherd announced to the assembled delegates. The children of Earth bring with them the gift of boundless curiosity, the strength of diversity and unity, and the courage to face the unknown with hope rather than fear. As the celebration continued around them, Elon stood with Helen Chenat, an observation window, looking out at the stars that were no longer distant lights, but homes to friends and allies. "What happens now?" he asked. Helen smiled, holding her father's notebook close. "Now we learn. We grow. We help others take their first steps into the larger universe, just as we were helped." She paused, watching Earth's tiny blue spark in the darkness. "And we prove that a species willing to reach for the stars deserves to find friends waiting among them." The fragment in Elon's pocket pulsed with gentle warmth, no longer a mystery, but a promise fulfilled. Humanity had passed its greatest test not through conquest or technology, but through the simple choice to trust and hope over fear, in the vast cosmos filled with wonders beyond imagination. Earth's children had finally found their way home. Where? Are you listening from today? Drop a comment below and let us know your location. We love hearing from our global audience. If you enjoyed this emotional journey about hope, courage, and humanity's potential among the stars, please give this video a thumbs up. Your likes help us reach more people who might need to hear these inspiring stories. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell so you never miss our latest uploads. We bring you fascinating stories like this one every week, tales that combine real science, human emotion, and the endless possibilities that await us in the cosmos. Most importantly, please share this video with your friends and family. In a world that often feels divided, stories like this remind us that we're all part of something bigger, one human family reaching for the stars together. Spreading these stories helps spread kindness and awareness about our shared potential. Thank you for joining us on this incredible journey. Until next time, keep looking up at the stars and remember, the universe is full of friends waiting to welcome us home.